and thank you for tuning in to the Math Guy. Today we'll be looking at gross wages once again, but focusing more on commission and piecework. Commission is when you get paid for a certain percentage of usually what you sell. Usually it works for car dealers, appliance stores, pretty much any job where you're actually a salesman for insurance, houses, realtors, whatever. Piecework usually is used in shipping warehouses or other storage facilities where you might have to send so many items out during a day. You usually get paid based off the numbers of items that you package into boxes, the number of boxes you send out, so on and so forth. So the first problem we have today reads that Tom gets a base salary of $400 per week. In addition, he receives 8% commission on his sales. This week, his sales were $4,400 with $275 in returned merchandise. His sales quota was $1,700. We need to know how much Tom would make in this week. It tells us here in the problem that he gets paid commission, which means it's going to be a commission problem. Because of this, we actually have a formula we can usually use for any type of commission problem. Looks like this. Base, which is his base pay, so we can write base pay, plus a percent. That's going to be the percentage that he actually makes based off what he sells. This is multiplied by his sales minus his quota. Any quota you have usually has to be subtracted. Some jobs, they might say, here's your quota. If you don't meet this quota for so long, you're fired. Most jobs will say, here's your quota. You get paid a commission price for anything after that quota. Usually that quota goes and fluctuates. If it's a slow time in the economy, your quota might be lowered. If the economy is busy, if it's bursting, if it's busy, they might raise it. Then after the quota, we don't add, we subtract. Any returns. Any return merchandise, it works against you. That goes through and pretty much makes it so that if your parents come in and buy something from you just to help you reach your quota, then the next week they come back and return it, you end up losing the money on it anyway. So you need to make sure you make accurate and good positive sales. You don't want items being returned. So we go through, we have our formula, and we start filling in anything we know. For most of these problems like this, it's just take the formula, fill it in. It says up here that he receives a base salary of $400, so we fill that in for his base pay, plus an 8% commission. That's our percentage. We have 8%. We multiply this by the sales minus the quota minus returns. So we have to have all that in there. If we're missing one of those things, you just leave it blank and don't put it in. Just drop it. It says here that his sales were $4,400 minus our quota, which was $1,700, minus our returns, which was $275. Okay? So here's our new problem. We have 400 plus 8% times the quantity of 4,400 minus 1,700 minus 275. We go through and we just start breaking everything down into small pieces. We start simplifying everything we can. Well, the first thing we want to simplify is what we have here inside the parentheses. We do all this subtraction, 4,400 minus 1,700 minus 275, and we get an answer of $2,425. That's how much he's actually going to be receiving 8% for. Another nice tip I always try to tell people, take 8%, always turn it into a decimal. Makes it really easy to calculate with it, and then you don't forget to put in the percent sign. So take 8%, which we know is 0.08. So we have 0.08 times 2,425. This all is added to the base pay still of $400. The next thing we have to go through and simplify is this 0.08 times 2,425. We put this into a calculator, we get an answer of 194. So we end up with 400 plus 194. From here we simply just go through and we add those two things together. We get $594. This is how much that Tom will make for the week if he has all this information up here. $400 for base salary, 8% commission, $4,400 in sales, $275 in return merchandise, and a quota of $1,700. Our next problem reads, Lenny works at Discount Drug Emporium, which is a mail order prescription company. He is paid for the number of line items he fills on an order form. His job requires him to read the incoming form and pull the medication from the proper bin and place it in a package. He is paid 6 cents for every line item he fills. If he fills 12,235 line items this pay period, how much will he earn? As you read through this problem, you see there's a lot of background information here. There's a lot of stuff we really don't need. A lot of your word problems usually go through and add in this extra stuff. We can actually go through and cross a lot of this out. We don't need to know where he works. We don't need to know fully what his job requires him to do. The biggest thing is, we know that he's paid 6 cents for every line item he fills. We know he gets paid 6 cents for every item. We also know that he fills 12,235 line items. To actually solve this problem to find out how much he will earn, we simply take the number of items he filled, which is 12,235 items. We multiply this by 6 cents per item. Through this, by doing this multiplication, the number of items, that cancels out, which means our final answer is going to be a monetary value. So we know it's going to be a monetary value. We simply take 12,235, multiply it by 0.06, and we get an answer of $734.10. So in this pay period, if he fills 12,235 line items, gets paid 6 cents per item, he will make $734.10 for this pay period. Our last problem for today reads, the Nuts and Bolts Company is calculating inventory. They performed an item inventory and found that they have 45,235 items in their storage facility. They want to make sure they have been shipping their orders accurately. They believe they started with 95,152 items at the start of the year and have been paying 7 cents per item shipped for a total of $4,246.02 in employee expenses. Based off the information gathered, we need to find if their inventory is correct or if there is some sort of mistake. The first thing we have to do, we have to notice that this is a piecework problem. We're paying so much per item, therefore it is piecework. What we have to do is find out how many items were actually shipped and how much money was paid per item. Well, we're told it was being paid 7 cents per item shipped. So we already know one of the two pieces we need to know. The other piece is the number of items that were actually shipped. It tells us they believe they started with 95,152 items. We know that we now have 45,235 items in storage. If we do some simple subtraction, we can find out how many items should actually have been shipped then based off of those two numbers. We find out that it meant that they shipped 49,917 items during this year. So if we take the 49,917 items, we multiply this by 0.07, it'll tell us how much they should actually have spent based off of the numbers over here. When we do this multiplication, we get an answer of $3,494.19. This is how much they should actually have spent. If we look back up to the problem, it tells us that they actually spent a total of $4,246.02, which we notice that $3,494.19 does not equal $4,246.02, which means there is a mistake.